Hi, welcome to this episode where we're going to talk about 5 steps that we can take when we want to emotionally process. So, when we're emotionally activated and we want to move it quickly and easily and gently, this is an amazing 5-step process, super easy and simple. Step number 1 is to pay attention to what has actually been activated. Step number 2, is this actually mine? So just even asking self that question, if it's not ours, it can be released just from simply asking the question. Number 3, where do I feel what's been activated in my body? Number 4, lean into it, breathe into it, and just start to allow it to be, just start to come into the feeling of it until it starts to release, dissipate, or fully, completely transmute. And then step number 5 is then just come back into readjustment or realignment. What do I now want to feel? What do I now want to replace? What I just moved. So maybe I want to replace it with love. Maybe I want to replace it with peace, with inspiration, with optimism. So then we would just set that as an intention. And if possible, get back into alignment by feeling it. Okay, so those are the 5 steps. Now we're going to unpack them a little bit. It's really important in our transformation, in our healing process, that we feel to heal. So there's a lot of modalities that we can do that help us to move the energy, transmute and clear out programming and unresolved energies. There's still, however, a proportion that we have to process within ourselves. And that's because sometimes it's the actual going into an energy that's been activated, like fear or like grief or anger. And that process itself sometimes reveals something to us. It could reveal a belief system. It could reveal something that we need to know or understand, or it reveals the root of when this started. And that needed attention, or that needs some type of awareness around it. And for the alchemy to happen, and the alchemy will be either it's completely transmuted and then we have just more available space to feel lighter, to feel more hope, or to feel more love, or to feel more joy. Or we now can start to feel with choice, coming back into our alignment of what we want to feel. And it births another quality. So we'll either just transmute it and open up space, or it will potentially, the alchemy sometimes births a quality. So for example, if I've been suffering in grief, when I move through that grief, now all of a sudden I may be open to more compassion, to more love of life, or to more a deeper understanding, the quality of understanding. I might have deeper understanding or patience around things. So that's the alchemy. So it's really important that we don't bypass that step when we feel it. However, we've been really trained, conditioned, or we just actually innately fear to feel, because it could be just really intense. It could be really scary to feel it. We might feel it if we open up that door to feel it. It might just completely consume us, especially if it's anger or grief. We might just feel like we're going to be swallowed up in it. We might feel like we can't handle it. So it's important that we give ourselves, the permission to baby step it if we need to. And that just means that we can pull out if we start to feel like it is too much. The other thing that's happening right now, where we are at in the ascension process with the paradigm shift, is there's an acceleration of healing being activated for people, and relationships right now are a theme. And that's what that's doing, is it's calling everybody to really go within and really start to ask, what is my why? Where am I operating from? Because we're dismantling codependency. And so what that does, it activates a lot of the shadow wounding. And a lot of people don't know yet how to recognize that, or even know what to do with it. And that's why we're starting to get more projections, or we're projecting out more. So, projections are at an all-time high right now because of that. So that's why step number 2 is this actually even mine? So it could be a projection we're receiving. It could be what we're feeling, could be something coming from the collective, something coming even from somebody that you're not even in physical space with. So it could be somebody, depending on your sensitivity and empathic abilities. It could be somebody from your family. All of a sudden you're starting to feel. It could be your neighbors that you're feeling. It could be, if you're a healer or practitioner, it could definitely be one of your clients that you're working with. So again, it's just really important to start to discern, is this even mine? And the thing with emotions often is that, depending again on the sensitivity, when we do feel an emotion, often it can feel like ours. And so just asking that question usually will just start to eliminate or give the discernment of, if it's not yours, whose it might be, because there might be something that we're being asked to call upon for them, such as a blessing, a prayer, or request healing for them, as an example. Okay, so step number one is, what am I actually feeling? And we don't have to identify it. It doesn't have to be identified as anger, as sadness, as an example. It could just be a sensation, but it doesn't feel very good. And that's what we want to feel. Is this making us feel contracted? Is this making us feel, kind of something's not right here? Something doesn't feel right for me, doesn't feel good for me, feels heavy, or it just feels not good in my body. So that's just an indication there's some energy moving or coming up that is seeking to move. So remember, everything is energy, and energy by its nature wants to be balanced, harmonized, transformed, or transmuted. And when energy is in motion seeking that, that's emotion. So that's energy in motion. So number one, we want to just start to be aware. I've just been activated, and what is that sensation or energy? And it's interesting because in the outer collective, we can also start to feel energy that you'll start to pick up that is actually in the collective energy. And so again, that could be just something like, I know that that's not mine, but I'm feeling it. So do I need to set up more boundaries? Do I need more self-care? Because that's indicating to me there's potentially an increase of a wave in the collective. And what I mean by that is there can be a huge activation of healing that gets activated, or say something major happens in the world. So say, there's a war breaks out, fires break out, a certain natural disaster or something like that happens, something political happens, and it upsets a lot of people. That's a wave of that energy that shows up in the collective, and that energy starts to can affect us, even if we're not paying attention to it, even if we don't even know anything about it. We're still going to be affected by that, and that's part of the sensitivity and complexity of just how connected we actually are. So we want to, again, just be aware. And at first we won't know. So that's, again, training ourselves. Is this actually mine? So our mind often wants to get caught up in the story. So step number one often is a bit of a training in of itself. So invitation is, be patient with yourself if you're new to this, because what we tend to do is we get hooked or caught up in the why, the who, the what was said, the what was done, the what wasn't done. And what we want to do is we want to come back to, how am I feeling about that? We want to try and train ourselves not to get caught into the why, the who, the what, because that's just kind of the catalyst that has activated this unresolved energy within our subconscious and our body that is seeking that transformation or transmutation. So we want to train ourselves, and that's not easy. So sometimes these steps are better to do even after the fact. And even sometimes we can know it. We can know that I'm being activated here, but I'm still getting pulled into the drama. I'm still getting pulled into the argument, or I'm still getting pulled into the power struggle or the dynamic. And so sometimes it takes a bit, even if we're aware of it in the moment, to be able to later do it. We may still have that response in that moment. So be patient with self, because it is a process sometimes. So training number one, to just start to recognize, I had a response here, so I need to extract myself from whatever was said or what was going on, and so I can come back and be aware of what has showed up for me. And then asking the question, is this mine? And then 3, where do I feel it in my body? So often when we go into the body, we'll start to feel it. Maybe we feel it in our solar plexus. Maybe we feel it in our heart space. Maybe we feel it in the head. It could be anywhere. And then we want to start to breathe into it or lean into it. We want to meet it. And as we do that, we might find that it changes and it starts to move. So we want to follow it. If it starts to move in the body, we want to follow it. And we want to still just kind of lean into it, keep breathing into it. And then sometimes it even changes the sensation. So say there was a contracting sensation in the heart, and then I started to follow it into my heart, and then all of a sudden it started going into my solar plexus, and I recognized this is actually fear, and it's in my solar plexus. So sometimes it changes. We want to just roll with it because there sometimes can be layers to it. And then we want to align back into what we want to replace that with once we've done step number 4, which is moving with it and breathing into it. So there is a lot happening on the planet right now, and there's a lot happening potentially in our own personal lives or families, or our world that we're living in. So invitation is just this is a really quick process to go through if you're seeking to find something that just kind of like a formula to go into, so that we can process, and we can do so very gently, very easily, and very softly, so that it doesn't feel so intense, it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And remember, we can pull out at any time if we feel that it's too much, or we don't have kind of the capacity at that time to keep moving into it. And know that when we do go back into it and we meet it again, then we're starting right from where we left off. We're not starting all over again. This is so important, though, because we do need to feel to heal. And when we do, and we can get into a position once we've trained ourselves that we could actually do this as you're having a conversation with somebody eventually. Like, that's how refined you can get these steps, and you'll just be able to be moving something. And what that does is it gives us the ability then to have more space and awareness to choose our responses, to choose what we want to start to create more of in our life. And we can start to choose how we want to show up and how we want to relate to things. So that just helps us to come out of that defense mode, that hurt mode, wounded mode, and we can start to move that energy. And then we can start to really start opening up to more love, more joy, more compassion, more creativity, more inspiration. So it's a little bit of consistency and effort at first, but once we have the training, and once we have this, kind of system or these steps in process, it's a really powerful and very impactful way to process and to move those emotions. All right, so wishing you a very beautiful day and an ease with your process and with your feeling to heal. Namaste.